And we are recording. So welcome back to the StormCellar, everybody. Brad is here. Ray unfortunately can't be here today. He is a little under the weather, but I have a very special guest with somebody that we interact with on Twitter. Most of the people who listen to the show follow us on Twitter and vice versa. So Mary Chatelaine from Pours4Scores is with us. How are you on this beautiful Sunday afternoon after that big win in Edmonton?
Hey, I'm great. I'm tired because it was a late night, but it's my wedding anniversary today, so we are
Happy
having
anniversary.
a good day. Thanks.
You
Went
took
out to
time off for us, man. That's a
of
low-key
course.
wedding anniversary day.
Well, we did a lot. We went to like the Nutcracker yesterday and went out to dinner and did a couple things. So we're getting ready to go on a big trip to Nina Ryder's homeland to Switzerland this week. So we're trying to get all of our ducks in a row for that trip today because we have to work obviously all week. So
that'd be
make sure
amazing.
everything's ready. Yeah.
Well, awesome. So you're here really to tell us a little bit about Pours4Scores. So we interact on Twitter. For those who don't know, pretty much they pick a player, or you pick a player, they score a goal, we donate some money, we raise some money for charity. That's kind of the deal. But so tell us a little more about that, and then kind of how did that get started?
Yeah. So last season, or I guess really when the pandemic started, and they canceled everything. Obviously, everyone was missing hockey. Once it finally came back, Zach Mitchell, one of our other founder, started kind of doing crazy, he called them shower chugs, where he just like went in the shower and like sprayed himself off with beer after Vincent Trocheck scored. So really Vincent Trocheck was like the original Pours4Scores universal drink. And one night he was like, people were kind of starting to join in with him. I think it was mostly for when Vincent Trocheck scored. And I was messaged him and was like, we should kind of do something with this. So it'd be kind of fun to like do some sort of Twitter where we could just like compile all these funny chugs that people are doing and, just make it fun. And he was like, that's a great idea. So that's kind of how Pours4Scores was born. We originally kind of had it was just going to be a compilation of all of Hurricanes Twitter chugs, but we decided we wanted to do something a little bit more with that. And by the time playoffs were finished, we had raised over $8,000 for Canes Give Back, the Canes Foundation. So we worked with a lot with people, and we decided that we pretty much just, for every video that Caniacs would send in, we would send $1 to the Canes Foundation, and eventually other people started joining in, and then we decided, hey, let's pick one player a game that everybody drinks for, because most people kind of have their own favorite players and they drink for them, and it spiraled. I mean, it's crazy. So now we've kind of, this season, we've focused a little bit on different charities. We did one for sexual assault survivors in wake of all of the allegations coming out with the Blackhawks. And we did, Zach's dog was sick last week, so we sent some donations towards some pet care, not for Zach's dog, but just for specifically, but for in general. And we did, we sent stuff to the Black Girl Code, Black Girl Foundation, Black Girl Hockey, just trying to grow like where we're sending our resources to. It's kind of turned, it was a lot to count each video every game and do $1 per video. So we've kind of turned it into more of like, hey, if you guys want to do it for shots or, goals, some people kind of grown it on their own, and they've kind of been like, oh, the Canes win, I'll send $50, or if the for every shot that the Canes have and every goal that they have, I'll send $50, or a dollar for each shot. So it's kind of really been super fun seeing what it's turned into. And now every night we do pick one player, or sometimes a group of players, depending on the situation, to all drink for. And it just is really, it's something fun to do that we were all missing, like being at the hockey games. And it's kind of created this really crazy, fun community. And obviously it's not all just about the drinking. It's just any celebration. We have people who eat cupcakes. I'm pregnant now, so I just drink water or chocolate milk or eating ice cream. Yeah. So it's just kind of fun to just interact with other people, because it's hard for us all to get games right now with everything with COVID. Some people are still a little bit nervous to go out, and I know that the cost of the games have definitely increased since COVID. So we've just been trying to.
A lot of us are in the state too. If I'm being selfish, it's the community that has developed around the people I've interacted with and kind of met on Twitter through Pours4Scores seems to be exactly what you're saying. They're people who seem to have taken the idea and they're just kind of running with it. We did the same thing. I lost my brother to cancer. So when we did Hockey Fights Cancer Night, I put in some money there. And then being in Massachusetts and being a Hurricanes fan, it's not like there's a whole lot of Hurricanes fans in my town or even locally. I've seeked out some people, and there's a few scattered folks, but it's certainly nice when I can jump on and you kind of know there's a group of people who, are all going to kind of do that thing together, and you're all watching, but you're all kind of interacting, and it's kind of an interesting dynamic, I think, for not just COVID, but for people out of town who, I've been up here for 14 years now, and for all but the first one, the Canes missed the playoffs 9 years in a row. It was a very lonely time to be a Canes fan in Boston. Very, very lonely.
Don't remind us.
The RBA gets hired and our fortunes have turned around, but I still kind of feel like I'm on an island a little bit. And then I certainly think that Twitter and Pours4Scores is certainly a part of that, of making me feel a lot more connected than I used to. I kind of teased it the other night. I'm coming to Raleigh. My parents still live west of Raleigh. I'm going to be in town. I have tickets to the December 30th game against the Habs. I'm going to be there in person. I'm hoping to connect with some people and just put faces, to avatars and to tweets and just be like, hey, it's really kind of cool to meet y'all. And it's would be a much different experience. My wife and kid are not going to be able to come. So it's just going to be me, and I would still go to the game. I'll go to the game by myself. That doesn't bother me a bit, but it'll be, I think it'll be more fun knowing pregame, I'll know I'll be able to find a few people, and during the game, we'll probably be able to, find a few folks and connect. And I think what you're doing is a really cool way to engage people in hockey, for one, expand that Caniac base to everyone. Ray and I are constantly, hockey is for everyone. When you mention groups like Black Girl Hockey or, sexual assault victims and all these groups, it's like whatever we can do to help these groups, I think is fantastic. Anything we can do to grow the game. It's one reason I think that we're all Ethan Bear fans, aside from the fact that the guy is super down to earth, very well spoken, super nice. Like you couldn't ask for a better person, a better human being as a hockey player. And with Ray being from Edmonton, he was on board because he was like, oh, you're gonna love this Ethan Bear guy, who I knew a little bit about, but not a lot. And it's good to see us, that Caniac spirit, that small community, small market spirit has always been, in my mind, a connection between the team and the fans. And I feel like this offseason made that a little rocky, but I feel a little more comfortable with it now, because of the fans, really, as much as anything else. I mean, the product on the ice is great, but I really like seeing the fans interacting. And like you said, it used to be you guys were kind of donating based upon videos, and now people are just like, oh yeah, if Aho gets a hattie, like I'll throw you $100. I mean, I think that's just so cool that people are willing to do and be that generous. Especially when, a lot of us have had, pretty hard couple of years. So,
yeah, we love it. We absolutely love it. We have people from all over the world. We have people in Scotland and Finland, and we have somebody from Australia. We've sent shirts to, and we just we've been really, really astonished by the outpouring of love. And it's crazy because there's not many other communities that I've seen that you can just send a message on Facebook, or not on Twitter, or to somebody and be like, let's meet up and do this. And they're not actually a serial killer. They're actually really nice. And that's really been a fun time. Like, we've several times done big tailgates for Pours4Scores. We are just really, we're proud of what we've created, and we're hoping to keep it bigger. We really want to get more than just Caniacs involved. But it's just kind of hard to get that reach, because not a lot of us or some of us like other teams. For example, I lived in Tampa for 4 years, went back when the Hurricanes were in the dark ages. So it was kind of easy to jump on another team's little bandwagon there, I guess. So I have some connections with Tampa. A couple of our players are Avs fans, and we're trying to kind of pull other people in as well, because we just think it's such a fun idea, and we do really love it. And it's just been a really fun way, because now when we go to games, people are like, oh, hey, Mary. And I'm like, oh, hey, what's up? Hey, we're going and saying hey to people and have somewhere to tailgate. And it really does make it fun, because we live in Charlotte. We don't even live in Raleigh anymore. So it's kind of crazy that we have all these people in Raleigh now, and it makes us we want to move back. We both grew up there, but maybe one day.
That's awesome. So
yeah.
So I grew up straight up 77 from you there in Charlotte. How is the coverage? So my parents still live there, and it used to be like, did you hear about the Hurricanes? And my dad would say, nope. And he'd say, did you hear about the Panthers? And I'd say, nope. And this is when I lived in Clayton. And I have a boss who is from Massachusetts. She's a huge Bruins fan, but she worked at Wachovia in Charlotte for many years. The years we're not going to talk about. And she likes to tease me. She's like, nobody in Charlotte cares about the Hurricanes. And I'm like, you say that like Charlotte and Raleigh are the same market. Like, we've said on this program before, Charlotte and Raleigh are like Hartford and Boston. They're two completely separate. Other than they're in the same state, it's the only thing they have in common. There's nothing else in common. But how is the coverage in Charlotte now? Is it? I assume it's picked up. I mean, it's
better. I would not say it's great, but it's definitely a little bit better. I don't know how we can. It was really great. I really liked it when the Checkers were the AHL team affiliated with the Hurricanes, because it was just nice, because we watched Natchez, we watched all these players before Ned. Obviously he's not with us anymore. But we watched all these players in Charlotte, and then we'd go to Raleigh, and then the same players would be there, and that was really great. And I think that was really good for the market, but then obviously things change because it's a business. But I think we're seeing more and more Hurricanes fans. It's still not as big as I want it to be, because I can go up and I'll have I have a Canes jacket I wear to work. I'm a nurse. And I used to have a Canes badge reel before I broke it, but it more and more people are being like, oh, go Canes. And because before, like even 4 years ago, people were like, who's that? Like, what team is that? And you're like, you literally live 2 hours from there.
Right. Yeah. Well, we have a team was one I used to get when I would go home to see my folks. Is that we have a team? Like, oh yeah, yes. For many years now.
Yeah, we do. We do. So, but I think it's getting better, and it helps when your team's good. I mean, I hate to say it, but it does help in a small market when your team is good, that it can grow a little bit more.
Cures all ills when it comes to sports. It really does.
It does.
So that's amazing. Speaking of winning, West Coast Roadie, which I have to be honest, are my favorite. My son goes to bed about 8:30, which means for a normal game time, I miss, a period and a half. West Coast games, I get to see the whole thing. This is great for me. So I'm like one of the few people who's like, yeah, let's stay up late. I'm good till 1 a.m. West Coast Roadie has been phenomenal. Ray and I were hoping for 5 out of 10 points. The Canes already have 6 out of 6 points, all the points that were available. And I think they stole really the Calgary game and the Edmonton game stick out in my mind, but the Calgary game I think we stole. We played okay, but not great, and we just got some incredible puck luck and having 3 goaltenders on the ice in Slavin, Aho, and Anderson helps a lot. But that Calgary game, I mean, how would you break down that Calgary? What do you think?
I mean, I don't think it was as bad as, I know that Rod was like, that was not that good of a game. It was gross. I didn't think it was that bad. I felt like it was really fast paced. It was very hard fought. I mean, good teams find a way to win when they don't deserve to win. And that is what is starting to happen to us. Now, we did have a slip where we lost several games in a row, and it's just really nice to see us beating teams that are good, that are very good. I mean, Calgary, I was watching, I was like, wow, I really like this team. And I play fantasy hockey, and Mangiapane has gotten me a lot of points this year. And I knew that there was going to be a hard game, but having some incredible puck luck, and then just your superstar just shows up and takes over the game. That's what should happen. That is exactly what you want to happen.
100%. I knew Calgary was good in part because since Ray lives in the area, he kind of keeps me updated, but I don't get to watch a lot of those West Coast games because if it's not the Hurricanes, I'm not staying up. So I knew they were good. I did not realize they were as fast as they are.
I didn't realize how fast they were either, but it was fun to watch.
I could win or lose. If we would have lost that game, I still would have loved every second of it because that was the kind of back and forth transition game the Canes like. It's fun to watch. It's not boring. And then you're right. Sebastian Aho, who was the 35th overall pick in 2015. So, he gets compared to McDavid last night. But I think a lot of people forget that there was another pick in the 2015 draft that's relevant here. And that's the one goal scored for Calgary, Noah Hannafin, who was drafted by the Canes as the 5th overall pick. Then they get Aho at 35. And in overtime, it's one of those things that you just get a sense for. So Anderson gives Aho the puck with a minute to go, and Aho looked up the ice, and you just see him. He just kind of makes a move to start his Jets, and I'm just like, it's over. He's going to score right now.
That's exactly what I said to my husband. I was like, the way he called for the puck, I was like, this is it. This is it. And he got that puck, and he just turned his Jets on and just burned everyone. And I was like, I knew he was going to do that right before he wanted it because he was over it. He was tired. He wanted to go home, and he just did it. And it was awesome.
And you mentioned, when you do the things you're supposed to do, then you win games. And that's, I mean, that was amazing watching him. And then he pulls up, and then the 2 arms up in the air on Twitter. I immediately went to Eric Cole in Montreal, which was one of my favorite games of all time. Just that, like, what are you going to do about it? Like, I'm just going to stand here in your crease with my arms in the air. And there's nothing you can do. Go home. And that was beautiful.
I actually watched the Calgary's coach, Daryl Sutter. I watched his interview the next day about it, and he was kind of they asked him about the overtime, and he was like, he essentially was like, we don't have a player that can do that. And it was like I thought it was like very complimentary.
That's high praise.
Complimentary of
from a
very
Sutter,
high praise of Sebastian Aho, because he was like, we're really good. He's like, but we don't have a player who can just turn on the Jets and just take over and finish the game. And I was like, for once we do have that player. Finally, we waited a long time. We finally have that.
It's the small market curse, but we have two players that I think are highly underrated. One is Sebastian Aho.
More than that.
He gets credit, but oh my gosh, like he's an all-star lock, and he should be a starter. And then we have Jacob Slavin, who we can talk about as we move into the Edmonton game.
Savior.
Connor McDavid is an amazing hockey talent. Nobody can deny that.
One of the best in the world, best in his generation.
So exactly. He's a generational player. And Slavin, I don't know that he made it look easy, but he didn't make it look hard. Shutting down McDavid last night. Slavin is such a talent on the back end. a leader, especially when like he was paired with Bear. That's I think a great combo. I love seeing that. Or even when it's him and Cole. Cole looked a lot more composed last night. Wasn't taking dumb penalties, but was
Yes.
still doing his job. We've
Yes.
said when you don't hear Ian Cole's name, that's the best time. Didn't really hear
Yes.
his name last night. Very happy for it. But that game against Edmonton, I
He
thought we had a better
makes
chance of winning that game than the Calgary game going into the game, because Edmonton, for as good as Draisaitl and McDavid are, they're kind of a one-trick pony. If they
yes.
put those two guys on the same line because they're behind, you shut down the one line, and what do they have behind them?
Yeah, Ekman Larson. He's good. But that's pretty much it. Otherwise, yeah, I totally agree with you. Unfortunately, Slavin is not like a sexy, quote unquote, sexy player. He doesn't score a ton of goals. He's not flashy, and that's why he doesn't get that recognition. But sometimes I'm like, that's fine, because I want him all to myself in the Canes. So we want him all to ourselves. But he is, I mean, I've been saying it for a couple years now. I mean, he's probably the best defensive defenseman in the league. I mean, there's nobody that he that you can put him against that he's not gonna make it look just like it's no problem. And
Absolutely.
I know for a couple of years even he would just be out on the ice when like Ovi was out on the ice, because we just didn't have the depth defensively. So he would just be man marking Ovi or Connor McDavid or whoever all night. And
name the
now
star.
Name the star. And now we finally have some depth where other people can also do that. I thought Jalen Chatfield looked very good. He had a couple of puck strips against those big stars. And but I totally agree with you. I felt like this game was going to be tough, but I felt like it would be more winnable because, I mean, 2 years ago when we played them, we just stomped them because McDavid was injured. So it's like, if you can't win your game when your one guy is out, then that's probably a problem. And here we are, we have a bunch of guys out still putting up really quality wins, which says a lot about our depth and just our coaching and team in general.
Great point. TDA, who really drives that power play one unit, at least between the last two games, I think they're 1 for 5 on the power play, which is not bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly better than it's been.
Not as bad as it was. Yeah.
And then you lose Brett Pesce, who's kind of that other. He's kind of a slave, and I don't even say slave and light. He's a very solid in his own end. And without those two guys, and Chatfield is a great example. I thought he played great positional hockey. He threw his body around appropriately, didn't get himself in any trouble. And he covered for his partner there a couple of times when there were some miscues, and he was right in the mix. So I've been really excited about the limited amount of Chatfield we've seen.
Yes, that was one that I didn't expect to see one, and didn't expect to like. So not like, but
sure, yeah,
didn't expect to be this impressed with.
Yeah, if I have to keep him or Brendan Smith when everybody's healthy, I'm leaning toward Chatfield. I mean,
yeah, I definitely feel you on that. I agree with you. I'd be surprised if that's what ends up happening, but Brendan Smith looks pretty good. He's made some good plays, and he does step up and shoot the puck, but he also gets caught up a lot. I've noticed, and he's not as fast. Sorry. He's not as fast as as Chatfield, but and I also think I've also, even during playoffs last year, I really liked watching Max Lajoie play. So it's been just really nice seeing that we have that depth, because I mean, I don't know if there's any other team in the league that can have 3 of their defensemen out, all 3 of their starting defensemen, and all 3 of them be right-handed, and then us still, them still do as well as we've done. Definitely had some defensive breakdowns during those first couple games, but it's better and better, and our goaltending has been phenomenal, so you can't be mad about that. And then you also get some nice goaltending, like you mentioned earlier, from some of your forwards and Aho, Tavo, and same with Jacob Slavin, your
And
best
you
defenseman.
mentioned goaltending. I mean, Frederick Anderson. My expectations for goaltending when we got down to 0 goaltenders in the offseason, and I'm like,
Very low.
This is bad.
Yes.
And they bring in Anderson and Ronta, and I'm like,
I was cautiously optimistic, but I wasn't overly optimistic.
I don't even know that I was honestly cautiously optimistic. And part of that, I mean, there's been some, especially with Ronta, there's been some injuries, and the time in Toronto is, you never quite know when somebody doesn't play in Toronto well, if it's them or the pressure or the system because there is something about Toronto where they play great and then they just hit a cliff and they fall off. But Frederick Anderson has been, I mean, there's nothing more
way
you can ask
above
for a guy. Nothing.
No, not at all. He's been amazing. He's been amazing.
And unfortunately, on the other end of the ice during that Edmonton game is Koskinen, who channels the spirit of Ty Conklin for the Edmonton fan, the one Edmonton fan who maybe might listen to the podcast, and flubs and gives the puck right to Aho, game, set, match.
Unlucky.
So I felt
Super
so bad
unlucky.
for Koskinen because I thought he had played a really tremendous game as well. I mean, it was a back and forth. It was a nail biter until that moment. And then to have
That's
that
exactly
happen,
how I felt.
Oops, but good. At least we get to go to bed on time,
Yep.
on time
exactly
being relative,
how I
but
felt.
I don't want to see another overtime, especially with Vancouver coming up tonight. So,
Yeah, I actually think tonight might be almost a harder game than last night, just considering the guys looked gassed at the end of the game. You could tell that they came in and gave it their all. So I hope they're able to get the rest that they
definitely think this is a trap
today.
game.
Yes.
Edmonton. So for all of Edmonton is on a slide. I think they're 1-5 in their last 6, and in Vancouver is the opposite. Vancouver's starting to pick it up a little bit. So I think this is definitely one of those. On paper it may look easy, but they have a 3-game win streak going into tonight, and they're 5-5 in their last 10, and they're starting to right the ship a little bit. So, yeah, I'm not. I think we'll win tonight. I think we should win tonight, but I think it's going to be a much closer game than it may look like on paper.
Totally agree. When a team gets hot, it's hard to beat them. It's why in the playoffs certain teams should win but don't, because the team they're playing against is super hot, or people have to get hot at the right time. But they're definitely one of the more hot teams right now, and hopefully we're able to overcome that, especially from last night's game. But you can't underestimate anybody in the NHL. I mean, we only barely squeaked by beating Arizona, so you really you don't know. So you have to come in and give it 100%. And oh well, their record is this. Well, everybody's coming to play against Carolina to play their best game because they know that we're good. Finally.
Yeah, that's a good feeling as a Canadian. That's a great. No matter what you think of Arizona and Buffalo, those records, you're right, from top to bottom, luckily because of kind of the salary cap that gives small market teams a chance. Anybody could beat you on any given night. You have to have a little puck luck. You really have to, I think, work hard to make your own, which is Rod Brind'Amour's, I think, his basic philosophy. And but I'm looking forward to tonight. It'll be another one where I get to watch the whole game, so I'm kind of excited for that, even if I have to get up in the morning and go to work for a couple of more days here. So
yeah, I'm interested to see how it turns out. We'll see. Hopefully I can make it for some of the game. I have to be at work at 6 a.m. so it's a little bit harder for me to stay out for the West Coast games when I wake up 5 hours or 4 hours after the game starts to go to.
That would definitely make it more difficult.
But
with COVID, I was working from home, which meant to be at work at 8 o'clock, I was getting up at 7:58.
Yeah,
and that doesn't work anymore now that I'm back to work, campus part time. So it's same thing. I'll be up at 6:30.
Yeah, I'm so jealous of the people who I have not worked from home at all this whole pandemic.
You can't nurse from home, really?
Apparently not. Some people maybe can, but but I do know that the people that did work from home for a long time or still are working from home, they are very jealous of me because they wish they could leave the house. So that's, it's a
that does
double-edged
creep in.
sword. Yeah, double-edged sword there.
Any predictions for tonight?
Oh gosh.
Or can we a sneak peek on the universal drink, or can you give me anything?
Let's see if we've chosen a universal drink yet. Sometimes we choose it really early in the day, and sometimes it's like an hour and a half before the game. We're like, oh crap, we got to choose somebody. I think Jordan Stahl finally gets a goal tonight, or an assist, or has some points. Because I know he's looked close at some points. The last couple of games, he's on quite the drought. So we keep wanting to choose him for a universal. He actually was talked about last night as universal, and we were like, no, obviously we're choosing Ethan Bear. But we'll see kind of how it goes. I really want him to get, he doesn't need to score 1 million goals in the season because that's not necessarily his role, but I did enjoy when he would have his timely goals last season, and he still has his timely goals this season. They just haven't been as needed because Aho and Svetch and all the other players are really kind of doing that for him. But yeah, we haven't even talked about our universal tonight, so I don't even know who we're going to choose yet.
Right.
But it'll probably end up being Stahl or somebody.
I think that I love that. I'm a Svetch boy, so I always say it's going to be Svetch usually. But
yeah,
he's so close. I feel like at any moment he's going to break out for like 4 or 5 goals here in a couple of games. But
we like to choose people who we feel like need it. Not that they.
Sure.
Well, I mean, Jordan Martinook follows us. Trocheck follows us. So we do have a couple of Canes players that we at least know that we exist. But we always are try and give. If we feel like the guy needs an extra push, we always try and give them a little
and those guys
good
talk
vibes,
too.
more good vibes. Huh?
I said, and those guys talk. If you put out a universal drink, I'm sure it goes around the locker room once in a while. Hey, it's on you. I give Ray and I a pat on the back. We were live recording during the game, and we were calling out Trocheck. I was making a point about Cole and Trocheck. And as soon as I start doing it, Cole scores. And then I go to finish my point about Trocheck, and then Trocheck scores. And I'm like, this one's on me. I do bad things. I don't wear my lucky hat sometimes. And I'll take those losses. But these wins, these points, Trocheck is all on me. I called him out. We called him a tropical depression. And he's been lights out for the last few games. So
he's been
in a good place.
So good. He's been so good. Because he was looking, like you said, he was looking a little like he was fighting it. And he's come out on the other end, but again, he's scoring when we need him to score. I think that's one of the things that is nice that we don't, if if McDavid doesn't score, then they're probably not scoring a lot of goals on the Oilers. Well, we don't. I feel like our scoring's been really spread out, and Nino has had like a really quiet 9 points in 8 games, which has been incredible because I absolutely love him. And we're just kind of, I think Natchez looked really, really, really good in Calgary. And last night, I don't think he looked as good. But that just means he's going to probably do one of his crazy wraparound goals and make me look silly for saying that. But he's got, I think he's due. There's a couple players who are due, but
sure. We haven't heard a lot from Stepan or Lawrence in the last couple of weeks, but I think those guys are close. And with KK,
he was so close. Lawrence last night had those 2 incredible chances where, they should have been goals, but somehow squeaked.
That KK drop pass in the crease.
Yes.
And I was looking at going, that's just. To know what to do, because I try and be upbeat and positive about hockey. I do. Maybe Ray is wearing off of me. He has a dislike of the Habs that extends very far, and it's rubbing off of me because every time I see Habs fans talking, bad about KK, I have to rub it in their faces like this guy would be your second leading scorer.
I do it every time. I can't.
And when he makes a
not
move
say
like that,
something.
you're like, if he's on, if that's Aho behind him or Turbo or Svetch, or
It's a
that's
goal.
probably in the net. I mean,
Yeah,
no offense, to our fourth liners, but I mean, that's just such a first line move. I mean, just to have that
absolutely.
wherewithal to just like, I'm not going to shoot, I'm going to drop pass it. And I know you're right behind me. That's the kind of thing I would expect to see from Turbo and Aho. That no look drop pass in the net, nothing you can do about it. Look, but our fourth line guys are tremendous. So
It's great to have like just those good checking guys too. And you know what? There was a couple of games there where they were the best line on the ice,
absolutely.
where KK is really just, yeah, sure, he's the fourth line or whatever, but you know what Rod would say? We don't have a first, second, third, and fourth line. They are all lines that we can play in any situation. And so
Yeah.
that's
And
what
he
I
does
always
it. That's
say
the
to
cool
people.
thing.
And I'm like, and then and he does. And sometimes he does to a fault. But sometimes, a coach's greatest strength can be their greatest weakness. But he really will mix up the lines, and KK has been incredible. And I don't care if he plays on the fourth line right now, because who are you taking out? Aho? I mean, come on.
Right.
Um,
Right.
Troach, even when Troach is not producing as much, you still don't take him out because he's such a pest. And same with Stahl defensively and winning all the faceoffs. And I don't think we ever picked up KK to be first line center. I think
No.
he's meant to kind of more replace a Stahl or a Trocheck if we decide not to re-sign Trocheck.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I think his future lies, not necessarily as a 20-minute center, 20-minute a game center.
100% agree with
Like
you
I
on
know,
that one.
and I know that that's what. And it's so funny. Whenever the Habs fans start talking, oh, he only played 11 minutes, or he only has this many goals and this many assists. And I can't help. I have to respond every time,
I
and
do
it
too.
drives my husband crazy, because he's like, "You need to stop talking to those people." I'm like, I cannot help it, because they don't. I thought that these Habs fans were supposed to understand hockey, and they
Exactly.
just
That's
don't get it.
that I feel the same way. I respond because I'm like, Brad, don't respond. But Brad, you have to respond, because this is the 24 cups and counting crowd. This is the, we
Yeah,
we are, we are more hockey than Toronto. We are the epicenter of hockey. And I'm like, but you don't understand contracts. You don't understand restricted free agents. You don't understand
no
that our fourth line center
business,
has 120 less minutes than his replacement and has more goals than
more
his
goals.
replacement.
Yes.
He
Oh,
has as many goals as your number 2 goal scorer in not quite half as many minutes, but certainly it's I think it's over 100 minutes less than Suzuki. It's, he KK brings our fourth line up
who
to a level
they paid Suzuki what, 8 million for
for his 6
7 years?
goals.
Yeah, like
You know,
that. They're too big on like points production, and Rod Brindamore says it and has said it a million times. Like, it is not about the points. Rod Brindamore, in his head, Jordan Stahl is the best player on our team. When was the last time Stahl scored 40 goals in his career? Maybe I looked it up, and I can't, one time, because I was just wondering like what his average per year was. I mean, I don't think he's ever averaged more than like 20 goals in a season,
no,
so
that's not his thing.
and that's not his thing. But he does other things, and you need to look at those things too. And that is one thing that I love about Rod Brindamore, is he actually understands that it's not just about points production. And that's one thing that the Habs fans can't seem to understand, is that it's not just about points production. It's about other things too. And sometimes you pay a price now to get in a better spot later, and that's exactly what the Hurricanes are doing. And I can't be mad about you know any of their decisions at this point, because, well, we're one of the top teams in the league, and
Yep.
it feels
It
good.
was good.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, thank you so much for being here today. without Ray, I was kind of waffling on whether or not we should go for it, but I said, no, I said, I think what you guys are doing with Pours4Scores is really cool. They can check you out at Pours4Scores with the number 4 in the middle there on Twitter. If you're listening to the podcast, I'm sure you can find us. I don't think that needs to be said,
Yeah.
but I thank you for taking the time. This has been a really fun conversation to have. Keep doing what you're doing. Maybe we can find some folks for some other teams, and maybe Pours4Scores can kind of become there can be a Hurricanes chapter and a Bruins chapter and a Edmonton chapter or whatever, because I think I was surprised to hear you've already raised like what was it, $8,000 last year.
Yeah.
If you could do that over 32 teams, I mean, I think
Yeah,
that would be
that would be
such a great
incredible.
movement.
And that's what we really want to do. We partnered with New Belgium Brewing, so they've sent us some merch, they've sent us donations as well, and they're doing that again this year. And we really want to be able to do that with other teams. It's just we all have our 9-to-5 jobs as well, so it's hard to continually talk to people from other teams. We were talking to somebody last season from Nashville, and he was like, oh, hey, so sorry, I had something life-wise come up and I'm not gonna be able to like start this. So
Sure.
we're really hoping that as time goes on, we're able to kind of grow, and it would be so fun to have multiple chapters and then just have one main Pours4Scores account that we can, each little chapters, and then one main Pours4Scores account that can pick the best videos from the night from each market, and maybe win prizes. And we do giveaways. We've done raffles, but most of that's just me and Zach's stuff. I mean, it's really like stuff that we've collected over the years, and we've kind of like been like, you know what, it's so worth it to get this going that there will be another Nature's Puck. We'll find it one, and then we'll do it. We'll raffle it off, and it's worked really well. And we really hope to raise over $10,000 this season, if not more, for different charities. I know that we're working with different charities, so it's a little bit different keeping track and different numbers this year, but we've been excited about the growth, and we want to keep growing.
Excellent.
So
well, if there's anything that Ray and I can do, certainly reach out to us. We will help spread the word. We both know a lot of hockey fans across the nation, with him being in Canada on the West Coast and me being in New England. So we'll see if we can't maybe help you with some of that, because I certainly know some people for a couple of teams that might be interested in doing something, to build like a local chapter of something like a Pours4Scores. Certainly I know people here in Boston. I know a few people down in New Jersey that might be willing to help. And then Ray and I are always up for anything that helps expand the game of hockey to everybody. So
yes.
So Mary, thank you so much. I'm gonna let you go because we should both take a nap, because it's still 7.5 hours till pucks are out.
Forever,
but thank you so much for being here. If anybody has any questions for Pours4Scores, find them on Twitter, or you can find them through the StormCellar Twitter or Facebook accounts, and we will put you in touch. And
absolutely,
we always end the show the same way, with the same. We always exit in the same way, which is go Canes.
Go Canes, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.